Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the AIO tutorial for today. Now before we begin, there's two things that you need to have. Number one, you need to have a laptop, and number two, you need to have Python IDE installed. For example, you can use VS Studio Code or whichever PyCharms or whichever integrated desktop environment they're looking for. Now today we are going to work on a very simple problem from the Australian Informatics Olympiad. So I'd like you to go to your favorite search engine and type in AIO ORAC tutorials. So the first thing that will come up will be ORAC training preparing for AIO. Let's go ahead and click that. Once we click that, you can see preparing for the AIO. Under competitions, if you click on competitions tab here, you can see AIO. We just click that. And then you'll find Australian Informatics Olympiad. Now, some of you may need to sign in first, or if you sign in, you'll be able to submit your competition or training answers. Now today we're going to do the Australian Informatics Olympiad challenge for 2021. Robot vacuum is too easy, so we're going to do art class number 2. Those of you who have already done this, I'm so sorry, you can wait for the next video. Now let's take a look at art class number 2. In art class number 2, it tells us that you and your classmates made holes in the wall of the art class. N number of holes. The ith hole is located at the x coordinate x centimeters from the left edge of the wall and y centimeters from bottom edge of the wall. You have decided to create a single large poster to put the wall to cover the holes. To be as inconspicuous as possible, your poster should be rectangular, hung such that it's parallel to the ground, perpendicular to the ground, and large enough to cover all the holes. So a hole on the edge of the poster will still be hidden. You have a lot of time, so I decided to write a program to tell you the area of the smallest poster that covers all the holes. Now these are the input files that you're going to get. You get a single integer n for the number of holes that they are. In this case, there are 5 holes. So then you get the coordinates of the following holes. X coordinate, Y coordinate. So there being 5 holes, alright, you have to get the X and Y coordinates of all the holes. Your program should output a single integer, the area of the smallest paper that will cover all the holes. So let me give an explanation over here. So suppose the sample input number 1 is over here. They had 5 holes with the following coordinates. Alright, so we have 2, 3, 3, 1, 4, 2, 4, 4, and 6, 1. So the smallest poster that will cover all the holes will be a poster that is 1, 2, 3, 4 wide and 1, 2, 3 tall. So the area of this poster will be 12. Alright, so there are some constraints. Let's take a look. For all test cases, there will be at least 2 holes up to a total of 100,000 holes. And then the X and Y coordinates, minimum value is 1 and maximum value is 10,000. Okay, so the first subtask, there are 2 holes. For subtask number 2, it looks like it's going to be a diagonal for xi equals to yi, and for subtask number 3, no special constraints apply. That means that the x and y values can go all the way to 10,000 and there can be 100,000 holes. Alright, so this concludes the introduction of our tutorial. Next, we'll go on to the setting up of your work environment. Now to set up your work environment, first make sure your favorite IDE is working and operational. In this case, we'll be using Visual Studio Code. I like to start a new folder in my work environment, okay, and I throw everything in this folder. In this case, my folder is called AIO. When I hover my mouse over the folder, you can see that the location of my folder is D drive / OneDrive / Python code / AIO. Now going back to the requirements of the competition, you can see that there are 2 files that we need to have. One of them is artin.txt and the other one is artout.txt. So now there are 2 ways to go about it. One way is to actually create a file in the AIO called artin.txt. So go ahead, right click the AIO folder and type in new file, and then just type the file in artin.txt. Okay, so that will be it. Now what we need to do next is that we need to download the solution template for the file. The solution template that we are going to use today is called art.py, art.py. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this link. When I click on this link, you can see that there's a solution template that has been generated. I'm going to select all of the solution template and copy. Now going back to the integrated desktop environment, I'm going to right click on AIO again and put in new file. This time I'll call it art.py. You can see that art.py immediately defaults to a Python interpreter. Over here you can see a Python symbol. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to Control V to paste the entire template inside. Control V. So now we have seen that this art.py has yet to be saved. There's a white color dot over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Ctrl S to save it. The white color dot will disappear and change to a cross. So this is now able to run. But there is a problem because the artin.txt that they're going to input is not going to be found at that location. If you hover your mouse over artin.txt, you will find that the location is not just artin.txt, but it's at d-drive/OneDrive-Python code AIO artin.txt. Now there must be a simpler way to do this, but currently I'm not sure how to do it. So what I'm going to do is going to right click this and copy the path. Copy path. Okay, right click and copy path. Next I'm going to go to over here. I'm going to replace artin.txt with what I've just copied. So I'm going to press Ctrl V, and now we see that it's d-drive/OneDrive Python code AIO artin.txt. Now Python has a limitation where the / is actually a very important functional symbol. So in order to do a / we actually have to do 2 / like this, otherwise it will not read it correctly. Okay, so now this is what we look like. File open d-drive /OneDrive /Python code. Now it depends on where you stored your artin.txt. On my computer it's stored at that location, so you can try somewhere else. Now let's open up the browser and take a look at what is the sample code for the first artin. Now sample input 1 is 523 31 42 44 and 61. Now what we can do is that we can copy these values into artin.txt. Okay, so now I've opened artin.txt as over here. Then just type 5, 2 space 3, 3 space 1, 4 space 2, 4 space 4, and 6 space 1. And the dot here indicates we haven't saved it, so let's save it, and there we're done. Now we have an input folder, alright, input file artin.txt, and we have our solution template over here. What the solution is going to do is going to read, first of all, it's going to set up 3 variables, n for the number of holes, x and y for the x and y coordinates respectively. And the last one is the answer variable, which is currently set to none. So they're going to open the input file, which hopefully is going to be found in this location, and the output file ready for writing. So first it's going to read the input file. The first number in the input file is the number of holes, which is 5. So now that we read n is int input file, one thing we might want to check is that we might want to have the output print n, okay, because we don't know whether the input file has been read correctly and we don't know what the value of n is. So we'll just put print n first so that we know that our program is running fine. So for I in the range 0 to n, that means to say next for the next n number of lines, which means 5 lines, the input line, read the input line and strip it of all the spaces, and then assign the values x and y to the input line. So basically you're going to store sets of x and y coordinates into a list, alright, and we're not very sure whether or not it's going to read properly. So what we're going to do is we're going to print xi, okay, and yi. So hopefully this is going to cause the Python program to read the input file and immediately print it to the screen. Then we make sure that it's working fine. Okay, so then after that we don't really know what it is first. We're going to check our input and output file functionality. So the dot here indicates that the file has not been saved. Let's press Ctrl S to save it. Now we're going to press play, and hopefully we're going to get a result. Now, so it looks like 5 has been printed. Okay, that's because we wanted to print number n, none. And then we continued printing all the variables x and y one by one. So our reading of the input file has worked. However, our writing of the output file has failed because the output file format dWrite requires a number to be inserted into the output file and not a none type. So one way we can check that the output file is working, as we can put answer will be 0. Alright, then we save it and run it again. Hopefully this time it will work. So over here we can see that the output file has been written. There's no other complaints that the program has. However, where is the output file saved? We've saved the output file, but now it's not inside the AIO folder. Well, what happened is that because we didn't specify where to save the art.txt file, it went and saved it in a default directory over here, along with all the rest of my junk files. But if you click art.txt, you'll find that, okay, it has printed a 0 into art.txt. Now I don't want to put it inside here, so I'm just going to drag it to the AIO folder. Okay, oops, move this over here. And now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to right click it and copy the path. So this is going to allow me to throw all the stuff that I want, okay, into the place that I want it. In this case, it's going to be in the AIO folder. Now remember, we have to remove this path before we submit the answer. Otherwise, it's not going to work for the AIO servers. Now our program is working, and we have set out our environment for the AIO quiz, and we can start to put in variables for testing. Now, before we embark on coding, it's very important to get your thoughts on a piece of paper before you even begin to code. So here we have a piece of paper for us to talk about how we want to approach the problem. So we know that we could be given any number of holes, and we need to have a rectangular poster that's large enough to cover all the holes. Alright, so in this case, our rectangular poster kind of failed because we haven't chosen a poster that is large enough to cover all the holes. How are we going to decide what is the maximum size of the poster that we need? Well, one easy way is to think about what's the largest x and y coordinates that are required. Now this hole over here is the furthest to the right, so this will be the largest x coordinate that's needed, x max. Over here, this hole is the highest up, so this is going to be the y max value. This hole is the one that is lowest, so this hole is going to be the y min. And these two holes on the left are the furthest to the left. This is going to be the x min. So what this means is that because the coordinates are stored in a list like this, okay, maybe 7, 8. So all these are the x coordinates that are stored, and all these are the y coordinates that are stored. So actually what we need to do is to extract the largest and the smallest x and y coordinates. And then we're going to make a poster that is going to be cover all of them. So for example, x max is 7 and x min is 1. Y max is 8 and y min is 1. So that means that this length will be 8 minus 1 and this length will be 7 minus 1. So that is how we're going to solve the problem. Now next, let's talk about pseudocode. Before we begin coding in Python, it's kind of important to write down what you want your program to do. So first of all, we're going to extract out the values. We're going to obtain the following 4 values: x max, x min, okay, y max, and then with y min. Now, are there Python methods that will allow us to obtain x max, x min, y max, and y min easily in a few lines? Well, actually there are. Now, each one of you is going to be given a Python cheat sheet, just like the one I've showed you over here during the test. Now, this Python cheat sheet will have a lot of stuff for you and a lot of instructions on how to use the methods in Python. I hope you will read them before the Olympiad actually, so that you know where to find everything. So anyway, maximum and minimum values of a list are found are very simple. You just have to put minimum bracket L or maximum bracket L, where L is the list or whatever that you want to do. So that gives us a very interesting way of obtaining the maximum and minimum values. Okay, so what we're going to do now is that we're going to start coding our values over here. To do, this is where you should compute your solution. right, and then write the answer down. So what we're going to do is we're going to write the area of the poster, where I always like to start my variables with a small letter. The area of the poster will be the maximum value of x minus the minimum value of x, and then after that multiplied by the maximum value of y minus the minimum value of y. Now when we execute this line here, it's going to come up with a problem. But anyway, all right, then after that we take the area and we store it in the answer. So we would think that this is the simplest possible solution, and then we are, maximum x minus minimum x will give us the breadth, maximum y minus minimum y will give us the height, and we multiply together, we get area. When you run this program, you're going to see that there's going to be an error out. So it reads the values properly, okay, but trace back. There's a problem in line 41. This line here, area max x minus max win, type error. This is not supported between instances of none type and int. What is going on? Now, actually what the AIO solution template has done is that it has laid a trap for you. And the trap is actually over here. In the initialization of the variables, they put down that n equals to none. Alright, this is already a danger, because what happens is that a none type is a type of nothing. That is not an integer, it's not a I don't really know what it is. Maybe it's a boolean even. So it's very dangerous. And what happened is that for x and y, they initialize x and y 100,005 values of none. So what this means is that the list x contains 100,000 words, and all of them are the word none. So imagine none, 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 none for 100,000 words. And then over here, xi and yi, we have only replaced the first 5 values of this 100,000 words as the number. So what actually happened is that we think that these are the x and y lists that we get, but we are mistaken, because the actual lists that have been set out for us, right, contain 100,000 nuns, right, and only 5 values which have numbers on them. So when later on they're trying to find the maximum value of this list, they're going to compare 7 to none, and that's not possible, because as Python has said, it's not possible to compare the type int and none. So what we're going to do is to cut out all the rest of the nuns that are at the end of the x and y arrays using the following commands. Now we're going to put x is equals to x, okay, but I only want the first n values of x. That means to say I want the values from 1 all the way to n, or rather the values from 1 to the nth value, okay, and then I only want the y from the y to the nth value. Okay, let me explain to you how this command over here works. So in any array or list that is used in Python, you can specify the first ith number of the array by saying that that means to say you want the values of x from the ith to the jth element. Okay, so in this case, if you put like maybe 2 to 4, then it would take the second to the 4th element. So if we omit the first number and then we just put semicolon n, that means you say that you want x from the first to the nth element item in the list. Okay, so what we're going to do is that since we know that in this case maybe there are 4, so n is equals to 4, so and then we have n equals to 4, so there are 4 numbers followed by 99,000 nuns. So we're going to put x is equals to the x from the first element to the n, that means that only 1, 2, 4, 7 will be stored. So now x will be equals to 1, 2, 4, and 7. This will cut out all the rest of the nuns. So by using these two commands, all right, don't forget to save your answer, right? So maybe you better write down print over here answer, and then equals, and then we print plus string answer. All right, okay, so that should, I think that should work. All right, so save it and run it. Okay, so we see that 5, 2, 3, 3, 1, 4, 2, 4, 4, 6, 1 answer equals to 12. And then when we check our out text, the answer is also written as 12. So now it looks like this program is working. So in order to try to see whether it's working, we also need to try in the other, okay, sample inputs. So 4, 4, 4, 3, 3, 5, 1, 1, 1. Sample output should be 2. Sample input 3, 2, 3, 2, 1, 3, 1. So let's go ahead and fill in these sample inputs and outputs into the answers text. So we go to art in text, and then we can fill in sample input 4, 4, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2, and then 1, 1, and then this will be nothing after that. Save it, then run art py again. Okay, it should be, answer should be 9. Let's check the answer. Oh, answer is 16. So clearly there may be something wrong with our program. Okay, and what is wrong with our program is that we copied the third line wrongly. It shouldn't be 2, 2, it should be 5, 5. So if we save this again, and then we run the program, it should be, answer is 16. So it seems that our sample input is working. Right, now what we're going to do is that we're going to tailor this solution for AIO. So we're going to copy everything, and then we're going to the AIO submission portal. We go to submissions, and then we can type code here. So we put in type code here. So now remember that once you go into the AIO, what you need to change is that you need to remove the art in and art out paths. All right, and let's try to submit this. Select language Python 3, and then we submit. Okay, so now it's judging, and everything has been judged correct. Okay, so this is how you would do the first submission. Now, why don't you try with the next problem of the set? Okay, so you can go to AIO, and you can try the next problem, which is a melody. Now, I'll review the answer to melody next week. All right, so you have 1 week to finish melody. And that will be the end for this session.